Alrighty, Lumberjacks, welcome back to another Logging from Scratch episode. Last time we were playing, we were just doing a contract processing up that pile over on Ender's Forest. Now we are on the beautiful Axe Mountain, and we got a contract to go cut out a pipeline line. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to use the processor. Again, we got our 880 here on the back with our processor head. Really putting this sucker to work right now, so that's actually doing pretty good. So what we're going to do is we're going to find wherever the heck this line is. I'm just looking at my map here. It should be up over around this corner up here. So what we got to do is there's a big long line that's already been kind of marked out for us, and we just got to go through and cut down the trees or fell them with our 880 on the back. And yeah, pretty straightforward. Easy money. They're paying us $75,000 for this, so we're gonna be making a sick amount of bucks to do it. But that's good. We need money because we want to build more stuff. So let's go here. Looks like it's up this section here. Now I haven't actually pre-walked it or anything to see how far it goes. Let's just start cutting. Why even bother? Let's just get to work here. Back to our Slavic work. Alright, so they're going to lift this off this time so we're not dragging it on the low bed. Yeah, so this will be good. Like I said, it's a pretty good investment, this machine so far. We've been just really coining it. But like I said, what I want to save up for is I want to buy our own low bed with our own... well, I'm not even really worried about the low bed portion of things, but I want to buy the actual truck itself because I think that'll be a nice thing to have. Okay, so we're going to cut these to 7.6, which are kind of like a medium length. We don't have to clean them up or anything, so we're just going to leave them on the road, and the contractors can decide to do whatever they want. Oop. And let's throw that out there. So yeah, this is good because now we're working for an oil company, doing some bigger jobs. And like I said, if we get our reputation up there and better, maybe we'll start getting even better jobs. So we want to do a good job on this stuff while we're new and fresh, so people, well, I mean, we want to do a good job on everything, but especially want to do a notably good job on this stuff when you're working for new contractors, because we want more jobs from these guys in the future. Like I said, if they're paying $75,000 for me to cut and process a little trail for them, and I don't even have to clean it up, oh buddy, I'm happy there. Let's actually adjust our head just a little bit there. Perfect. So yeah, like I said, this is for an oil pipeline that they're going to put up here. Now I know there's another company up on this hill working right now called Wilco Logging Company, and they're up here somewhere. I think they're probably up the mountain somewhere there, but I eventually imagine we'll be getting some contracts from those guys as well. And then yeah, we're just going to kind of pool the money here. I haven't been back to Legion Hills in a bit, but I figure we'll kind of dash over there randomly as we go. Just so we can get caught up with all the structural things we need to do, buildings and trading out equipment and whatever else we need to do. And like I said, it's a great place to store all of our equipment for the time being. It's our little home base. I'm sure we'll still have use for our little Volvo, but I really want to get some different equipment to do some different jobs. But unfortunately, you know what, sometimes you just gotta gruel through some of the more boring tasks. I mean, not saying this is boring, I'm actually really enjoying this, but we'll get a lot of jobs that are quite similar to each other, so that's to be expected while you're doing contract work. Get rich or die trying. You gotta gruel through it all, go through the boring stuff to get to the good stuff. So yeah, we'll just kind of keep doing these random little jobs as far as they come up, and keep rocking it. That's the plan. And I'm just gonna cut kind of anything that looks like it's kind of intruding on the road a bit. That's kind of my plan here. There we go. That's good. Excellente. So yeah, like anything like that. This one over here, I think I'm gonna leave that one. But these two, oh yeah, these ones are going. These ones are getting wiped right out. Oop. There we go. So, topic of the day. I had somebody ask me to do a topic of the day about bears in Canada. So I guess it's a gentleman who has never been to Canada and doesn't have bears wherever he lives. He didn't actually tell me where he lived. But wherever it is, there's no bears, so I'll let you guys use your imaginations for that one. But, so, bears in Canada. Hey, it's a subject. Actually, you know what? I could detour into that now that I'm thinking about it. Okay, so, my experience with bears, both grizzlies and black bears, I've had a lot of experiences with both of them. So, when I was younger, my parents... Okay, this is a totally different concept that even I haven't thought about in many moons, so... my parents, when I was younger, and my grandparents and all of them used to do something called mushroom picking. So if you don't know what that is, it sounds pretty much like the title there. So we picked pine mushrooms, which were, what are they called? Matsutake mushrooms, I think. And what they basically were these delicious mushrooms that grow up here in northern BC. I think they grow in other places too, but they grow like really well up here. So basically, they're these big, meaty white mushrooms that kind of grow randomly all throughout the different valleys up here. So we used to pick them because what would happen is you'd go out for a whole day picking all these mushrooms and you bring back hundreds of them or however many you can get your hands on. And then we'd sell them to buyers, which were mushroom buyers. And these guys were people who would purchase them for a price and then they would sell them to these companies that were out of Japan because these mushrooms, these Matsutake pine mushrooms, were so sought after in Japan and it was just like a delicacy that they had with their food. And I mean, granted, they were amazing. Like we used to fry them up all the time with like with butter and stuff. Probably some of the best tasting mushrooms I've ever had. And I'm not really a big fan of mushrooms, to be honest, like in general on food or anything. So when we started picking them, well, I was a kid too. I was like a wee little baby kid. I'm pretty sure my mom used to like backpack around with me on her back when I was a like baby and still mushroom picked. Because you'd make crazy money. It was like well, I was back in like the early, let's say early 90s. But they could make crazy money. Like I know some guys that would clear like, you know, up to 20 grand a month doing that because they would go out there and just mass pick mushrooms and then bring them back to the buyers. And they'd buy them for upwards of $200. I think I even saw one time $300 a pound. $300 a pound. Like, and it didn't take much to make a pound out of those. So you could just cash it like you've never cashed it before. It was crazy. So yeah, anyway, we used to do mushroom picking. But so what you do is you go out to these random locations out. What we'd do is follow old logging roads, like where they have like cut blocks and stuff. We go up to the furthest point of those roads would take us, and then we hop out of the vehicles and we go march into the bush. So then you go march up into the bush and try to find patches of deep mossy areas where these mushrooms would grow. And then you collect them in bags and backpacks and racks, strap them to your back and walk it all out of the bush. It was quite a bit of work actually to do it. But it was something that we did and it was pretty cool. It was definitely a little bit weird, but... and I hadn't actually even thought about it because it's been so many years. Like, I was just a wee little guy then. And, like I said, it's been so many years since we actually did it that until that question came up about grizzly bears, I never even really thought about it. So my experience with grizzly bears, back to the main question. Sorry, I had to set up a big detoured story there so that you'd know where I was going with it. So, while we were out doing this mushroom picking... Oops, sorry, this tree's being a little glitchy there. While we were doing this mushroom picking, you're kind of out in the wilderness in the middle of nowhere, and you'd sometimes hike for like 4 or 5 hours just in a straight line out into the woods. Like, you can get pretty far when you're marching in a straight line for 4 hours, let me tell you. So during this time, we were able to run into all sorts of wildlife because you're out in the wild. Obviously, you're going to run into other wildlife eventually. So we used to run into bears, moose, deer, you name it. Everything you can put your mind to. I wouldn't say... Most creatures out in the woods, and even to this day, are... they'll leave you alone as long as you leave them alone. Oops, there we go. So, you know, the very few times that we did run into bears and other such creatures, most of the time they just, you know, they sensed you were around and they would just kind of leave you be. And you kind of left them be, and it was just kind of a mutual, hey, how's it going, walk away kind of thing. There was a few times where I ran into bears much closer than I wanted to run into bears. So I remember this one time, me and my dad, I was super little guy then. But we were going up this ridge. So I was seeing if there's anything around here that represented it in this game, but I can't. So anyway, we're going up this ridge and it's super steep, like, you know, like, I don't know, probably 70 degrees uphill. And there's these large embankments and all these weird kind of like overhangs and rock faces, and then this thick moss that all the mushrooms were in. So we're finding mushrooms, and you know, to note, while you're mushroom picking, your head is pretty much always straight down looking at the ground, because you want to see the mushrooms, because they kind of hide underneath the ground a bit. So it's a bit of a challenge to find them sometimes, because they're buried under this moss. So sometimes you only just see the little tiny bit of the mushroom sticking up in the air. They don't really grow very similar to other mushrooms where they're just out, you know, easily seen. They kind of hide in the moss, and that's when you want to get them, because they're in their best shape when they're in the moss like that. So anyway, we were, you know, heads down going up this hill, you know, up this ridge, and I'm following my dad, and I was just a little guy. I was probably like, I don't know, maybe 8 years old, maybe 9. So dad's hoofing her up there, and we're just piling up the mushrooms. We were getting so many. It was awesome. And we come up to this overhang, and it was maybe, you know, where we were picking the mushrooms, and to the top of this cliffy kind of overhang that was above us, if you can kind of picture that. You know, maybe 2 arms lengths away to get to the top of that ridge. Like, think of it as like a big shelf, and you wanted to climb up on top of it. So we were just underneath this giant shelf, and we were like, you know, about to kind of ascend it. And then just as we were about, I would say maybe 2 arms lengths away, like full adult arms lengths away, my dad just started going, quiet, 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 quiet. And I was like, you know, because I was a kid and I was probably nattering on or talking or something. So we all go quiet, and and whenever dad was like, be quiet, I know something was wrong, like something was up, we had to be careful, right? So, yeah, I was like sitting there going, well, what, you know, what's he see? What's going on? And you could hear this kind of like a grunting sound. It was like a duh, 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 like a weird sound like that. I'd never heard anything like that, like not in that tone before. It was a really kind of gruely, deep kind of duk 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 kind of sound. And I thought like, oh, like it's a moose or a deer or something. Anyway, so my dad's like we're absolutely still, silent still, and he's looking up above us, and he's like just staring, but he's not saying anything. And I'm almost like, you know, I'm looking up, there's nothing there. I'm looking past, I'm like, what is he, you know, like, what does he see? I don't see nothing. So I'm like, whatever, being a kid. And yeah, freaking not even 2 seconds later, I was looking down at the ground, because I was like, oh, dad's just crazy, whatever, you know, like, I don't know what the heck he's looking at. I'm a kid, so can't be that concerned. So I'm looking down at the ground, and I'm looking at the looking for those other mushrooms and stuff, and then I look back up to that ridge again where dad was looking, and I kid you not, there was a grizzly bear, a very, very large grizzly bear. And, you know, it could just be my child's mind remembering it as this humongous thing, but it was probably one of the biggest bears I had ever seen as a child. Like, it was crazy big. And it was, yeah, staring down at us, and I just remember seeing its like dark beady eyes and this big brown and this big ass hump on its back. Just crazy big monster of a bear. And my dad, as soon as that thing looked over the edge, and like, I kid you not, like it was like 2 arms lengths. Like you could have probably walked another 2 steps and gave it a slap in the face. Like it was huge. And my dad just, first he started really slowly backing up, and he wasn't making eye contact. He was just looking at the ground, but like I could tell he could still see it. So he's just backing up slowly, and he grabbed me by like the scruff of my neck, and he didn't say anything. He just like grabbed me. I didn't say a word either, but so he grabs me by the scruff of my neck and then just starts backing up. And then we got about to the bottom of the ridge, and it wasn't following us. It was just like watching us, like wondering, it was curious, like I guess what, you know, wondering what we were doing or whatever. But yeah, it was just crazy. So yeah, my dad just just bolted. Like, by the time we got to the bottom of the ridge, he just turned around and he picked me up because I was just a little guy. And he ran so fast. I can't even, like, I don't know how he didn't fall down. I mean, he's a pretty tough big dude too, but yeah, he military ran hard out of there because he was just like, oh, if that gets here, we're all dead. Yeah, we ran for probably, I don't know, 40 minutes. He was jogging and panting his butt off trying to stay in there. And yeah, it didn't chase us or anything, like, but you know, it could have gone the other way. Maybe the thing was hungry, or maybe it was curious. But grizzlies, regardless of how scary and big they are, they're way less aggressive, in my opinion, in my experience in the bush. Because I've run into about maybe 3 or 4 of them working in the bush, and you know, also during mushroom picking. And I'd say grizzlies are by far the least aggressive and least pursuant. Black bears, on the other hand, are the most curious. And they want to take a bite out of you to see what you taste like, because black bears are monsters. And black bears will follow you. They will chase you. They like to pursue you to see what you're doing. And you can't, you know, everybody says, oh, climb a tree. Don't climb a tree from a black bear, because a black bear can climb a tree way better and way faster than you can ever climb a tree. So anybody who says, oh, yeah, just, you know, just go climb a tree. No, that's not how that works. Not in that scenario, sorry. Okay. So anyway, yeah, that was my run-in with bears in that instance for the Canadian stuff. And I've run into bears other times too, like, you know, hiking through the bush or grouse hunting or doing anything like that. Yeah, it's been a wild time. But you know what? Most of the time, considering how many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours I spent out there in the woods working, or, you know, be doing leisure activities, I've never really come close to being, you know, messed up by a bear or had one like violently pursue me to the point where, you know, it's gonna kill you. Most things in the woods, as long as you make a decent amount of racket, they leave you alone just as much as you leave them alone. They're just as scared of you as you are of them most of the time. As long as you're not looking for them and actively trying to be a silly person, then you're good. Most of the bear stories that I ever heard growing up, or even from those camps where we were working, were just stupid people doing stupid things. I mean, granted, there are some times where people run into bears and just happen to set them off, and there was no intention of doing anything. But a lot of cases, guys are like, oh, I want to get a picture with it. And then they're pursuing it, and the thing's trying to get away from them and walking away, and it's like, I don't want to be here. And then it gets mad because you're following it, thinks you're a threat, and then, boom, there you go, bye-bye. Bear comes and eats you. So most of the time, if it wants to get away from you, let it get away from you, because it doesn't want you around. It's kind of like a human, you know. We're all animals in the sense of things. But you know, if there's a guy and he doesn't like you and you're following him and you're just making him more and more angry, eventually he's probably just gonna beat you up because you're annoying him. That's usually the case. So just think about that, but in a bear who's not very smart, doesn't have the same amount of intelligence, and now you're making it mad, so that's not good. Man, our trail is getting vivid here. No wonder I'm making 75,000. This is a big trail. This is crazy. So yeah, in terms of bear stories, that's about as far as I go. Do any of you have any bear stories? Because if you do, I want to hear it in the chat. You ever run into bears? You ever have any problems with bears? You know, anything like that? So I would love to hear some other Canadians tell their bear stories. And I know lots of guys who work in the bush and stuff definitely know that one, where it's a sketchy little world. Man, there's a lot of trees up in here. This is where I was like, oh man, this is easier and be done in 5 seconds here. And I'm like, oh man, it's all right. This episode might run long. That's just the way she goes. Especially with these contracts, unless they're like really big contracts, I kind of want to get them done in one shot. But we'll see how she goes here. Whoop. We have all the time in the world. Well, I wouldn't say all the time in the world. We have a large amount of time. Let's go with that. Oops. Whoop. There we go. Beauty. Freaking beauty, man. There we go. Whoop. So yeah, like I said, this will score us a $75,000 reward, which will help pay for the countless amounts of times I've spent money on fuel and transportation. Oh, we need to get ourselves a truck. Maybe, well, I don't know. Maybe I could find a deal where we can get a low bed and a truck or something. That'd be pretty sweet. I'll have to find one somewhere. Somewhere. Oop, there we go. Maybe we can find like an old previously used one. Like an old logging low bedding truck or something. That'd be sweet. Because then I'd like to do some low bedding. Because I've had a few people call me and ask me to do low bedding contracts. Just all you're doing is hauling equipment. I know it's, you know, it's related to logging, I guess. I don't mind driving. It's kind of fun. But these Wilco guys, they're gonna give us some contracts on this map here. Once we get things rolling a bit more, and then like I said, every once in a while we'll pop back over to Legion Hills, do some projects on there. There's definitely some areas that I want to buy, maybe cut back a little bit, just to kind of see where it goes. Jeez, how far up is this? This feels like this never-ending trail. But we'll find out. We will find out. But hey, you know what? 75 grand's a lot of money. So if we want to make our 75,000, we got to work for it. Well, there we go. So yeah, it's crazy bear stuff, hey? Bear stories. I'd love to hear you guys' bear stories. I think that'd be actually kind of entertaining. Just to see what kind of crazy situations people have been brought into. Oops, I'm going to run this way because I don't think I'm going to have enough room to turn it. You know, and just for satisfaction's purposes, I'm going to lay it even with the other stuff here. I'll turf it in here. I'm actually really happy with this dangle Wartaw. The fixed Wartaw, definitely a little more precise in like your aiming, but I'd say for like felling and stuff, this is so much faster. Because felling with a fixed head is a pain in the butt. Because it hangs up on stuff and doesn't, you know, work quite as well. This guy's been super nice to me, so I think we're gonna keep it. Whoop. Oh, jeez. And we'll cut that one out. I'm just kind of, like I said, just turfing them here. I don't know what they're going to do with them. They probably will just leave them there. It's just a pipeline build. Probably guys will come chop them up for firewood or something. Speaking of which, we got to do some firewood here eventually. Because our truck's all rigged out for it. That little lifted truck. It's all rigged out now. It's got the firewood kind of guard on the back there now out of the plywood, so that should kind of hold things up. I feel like we're getting close to the end because I see it's leveling out up here. Be interesting to see if they actually put the pipeline in. Maybe we can come back later and see. We get to go adventure all over the place here soon. Some other places opened up too. Oh, excuse me. Whoop. Slippery little guy there. And then we'll upgrade our equipment, get some new toys. And the next question is, we got to march this thing all the way back down the hill again. Oops. Oh, geez. I don't know what happened there. Oh, there's two trees. That's why I must have grabbed the second tree. So cut that one. It's a cool little spot though. It's so pretty up here. All green and nice. Oop. So yeah, mushroom picking. That is just the weirdest thing. I always forget about that as a child. or as I was as a child then. It's just, you know how you have these like things that you did as a kid, but for some reason they just escape you until some one random memory just brings it up and you're like, oh, I did that, hey? Oh, that's cool. Because I totally didn't remember doing that at all. But yeah, pretty funny. The funny times. But yeah, as always, I thought first I was like, a story about grizzly bears? Like, what the heck? That's a weird question. That's a weird topic of the day. But then see what it led into? It led into you guys learning about my past. Not like I'm sure a lot of you needed to know that, but now you know. How close am I to this tree here? Oh, there we go. Oh. Oh, is that the end? I think I see the end of the trail. Ho, ho, ho. I think that's it. Like I said, it wasn't cutting a whole pipeline. We're just kind of getting it started here, but we just need an access road for them so they can bring their equipment up here, and then they can do whatever they need. Yep, that's the end. And then we'll do a quick march this guy back down, hop it on the low bed, and get it out of here. Like I said, this one will go a little longer, but now that we're doing kind of like less episodes, we're doing kind of a few here and there kind of thing. It's I'm not too worried about the times on these guys being too short. And if you guys want to stay for the whole episodes, that's great. If you don't, that's totally fine too. There we go. Look at that, we got her beat. Wow, we actually ended on a pretty sick view here too. Look at this. Beauty. Now you can actually go... See, I think Wilco's up here actually working on stuff. I don't know if there's anybody on the other side. I see some other block roads. But yeah, man, you can go all the way up on that other side there. She's a big one. Oh man, that's a pretty picture too. I think we're gonna have to get that as a picture. Can't help myself, you know me. Alright, so let's trek her back down here, I guess. And then get it started. So since we do have such a long episode, I'm not going to bore you guys with the walking back and loading it up. But yeah, so we're gonna march this guy back down. I'll load it back on the low bed, and then we will bring it to... Well, I don't think I'm quite ready to go back to Legion Hills yet. We don't really have anything to upgrade there yet. But, you know, we'll see. There might be another couple contracts. I'll talk to Jim, actually. Jim's usually got a whole bunch of stuff lined up for me, so... We'll see what he says. But anyway, I'm going to leave it on this one, guys. So in the next one, we will continue on doing contracts. This has been a blast so far, cutting these weird little roads and stuff. We'll see what else we can come up with. But yeah, so if you guys liked the episode, leave a like, leave a comment. Do not forget to subscribe. And if you're in the bush, don't forget to hug a tree. All right, guys, we'll catch you on the next one. See ya.